Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and friends. I'm your host, Mr. Boomstick, and man, oh man, late breaking news that popped up 30 minutes ago thanks to some Twitter banter that was going back and forth, some confirmation on some stuff that we already had a written topic for. We have Ori we're going to talk about. We have our cast of characters that you know and love from the Primetime Gaming podcast that shows up each and every week for your entertainment. But we also have a first-time guest making his grandeur appearance on tonight's show, Luke Lore, also known as the Insipid Ghost. Dude, I want to thank you so much for being here. It is an honor to have you on tonight's program.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Your community absolutely sustains me. It brings me joy every week. So to get to be a part of it is a wonder and honor and a privilege for me. And I thank you for having me, man.
Well, it is great to have you on the show. You know, one of the things as a content creator, one of my personal goals were to have new people make their way onto any of my shows. It doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't have to be Primetime Gaming. It could be Breakfast with Boom on Friday mornings, and it could be even if you're a big Xbox fan and that's your shtick, you're more than welcome to come on there and talk about Xbox. And quite frankly, there's been a lot to talk about on the Xbox Factor podcast on Thursday afternoons. But let's get into the rest of the introductions. Now, listen, this dude runs the Twitter streets, and he carries a very big stick and walks very loudly. You know him as someone in command, in control of his own empire, welcoming back to the stage, So Shady, dude. Welcome back, my brother.
Hey, thanks, Boom. I do go by So Shady. Tonight, I am so hyped to be back once again, talking all these hot new news, man, gossip, rumors, all of it, baby. As long as it's gaming, I'm in. Let's get to it.
Well, listen, obviously, when you are not here, we obviously miss the presence. The way that you break down topics, the way that you are meticulous with talking about the topics I come up with each week is something that the show, I think, thrives on. And not having you here the last couple of weeks has been tough, but it's great to have you back in your chair, nice and snug. Next up, you know him as the Tempest Son. I know him as a brother, and you might know him as Sniper Elite. That's someone who will kill you on the battlefield. Please welcome Tempest Son.
Boom. What's up, brother? Man, it's good to be here, and I had some exciting news come my way earlier today.
Really?
PSO2.
Yes.
Open beta, March 17th.
Well, there you go. Your heart is no longer broken.
It isn't. It's right around the corner. And get this, they didn't actually put an end date on the beta, so I'm almost suspecting this to be like a soft launch. So
that would be something special. I got a funny feeling, like a lot of people. Like what I loved about what happened with the with the other, I guess, alpha or beta that it was you're hearing your experience, how much fun people were actually having. And I don't think Phil Spencer really gets enough credit for actually having PSO2 on the Xbox platform. I think it's going to be a much bigger deal than people are giving him credit for.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a huge deal. And to my surprise, there was no PC in this beta. So he's like, hey, I got it here. So it's on Xbox first. So the people that are dying to play it, you got to get an Xbox if you want to get in early. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And following up here, our resident Cape Crusader, who is always at the ready with the bat signal and batarang in hand, our football-loving Cybernox. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Rachel. No, I'm just kidding. What's going on, guys? It's great to be here. I love Mondays. I love coming in here and talking game with you guys. Glad to have Shady back. That famous voice. It's going to be a good show. What's up, chat?
Well, listen, it's great to have you as always. You are definitely one of the anchors that keeps the prime time gaming from blowing away. So thank you for being here. And last and no way least, our resident community leader, our know-it-all to everything that's going on to GameStop. Of course, if you're not friends with him, shame on you. If you're not subscribed to his channel, I say boo. And if you're not following him on Twitter, well, then I guess you're going to miss out on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox One Series X when that comes out, because he's going to be dropping the knowledge on who and where you can reserve it. Welcome to the show, Gaming Forte.
Yeah, man. I'm at words. I don't know what to say. You always have great intros for me, and I always appreciate them. But let's just put it this way, man. Was at work all day, and then news after news after news was just hitting today. And then, like you said, the last 30 minutes, something big just happened. And then on top of that, we're just gonna talk about some stuff that might put some fires in some certain places, and we gotta have those extinguishers out so we can put those fires out for people so they don't panic to death.
Well, listen, obviously, folks, first, before we actually get any further, I kind of just want to throw this out there. I've had in the last couple of weeks messages come from some folks. Now, most of them have been pretty fair. And I just want to kind of throw an explanation out there. When I do the advertising for these shows, a lot of the times, anyone that has worked with me before or is like, for instance, Luke today, the amount of show notes that I sent today was a light show. I only did 5 topics, and it only consisted of 3,100 words. That's light for me. Usually my show notes range anywhere between 4,000 and 5,000 words. Ask anybody. And I over prepare for the shows. And every now and again, I will put a subject matter or a topic and advertise it as, hey, we're going to talk about this. Sometimes we don't have enough time, because remember, this is only a 2-hour show. And I say only because, most shows don't run 2 hours. We don't always get to it, but rest assured that if I'm advertising it, that means that I've really worked hard on the particular topic. I'm going to recycle it in a way where it's either going to show up on the Xbox Factor podcast or on Breakfast with Boom. So if you're interested, you can always just hit me up with a DM and say, hey, Boom, I saw this was advertised. You said you were going to talk about Scalebound, and I didn't hear it. That's why I do the timestamp, so you can look and see exactly when we start talking about stuff. But you know what? Let's get into what we're all excited about. And of course, on the eve of a big release, probably one of the biggest releases for the Xbox so far in 2020, is this bad boy right here. Now, if you don't know what we're talking about, this is Ori and the Will of the Wisps Collector's Edition. Now, of course, you have to assume, without making an ass out of you and me, that I have this bad boy pre-ordered, and yes, I do. Even though I have Game Pass paid up until the end of 2022, I had to get this collector's edition. I mean, look how freaking gorgeous it is. Now, the reason why I even decided to do this topic is because So Shady had hit me up in the DM and said, hey, Boom, if you're looking for other topics, let's talk about Ori. It's only the biggest release for Xbox. And I said, you know what? This guy's on to something. So, Shady, I want to start with you first, because you obviously were the cog in the wheel that set this emotion. What are your personal thoughts, expectations, and are you excited to play Ori and the Will of the Wisp within the next couple of hours?
I'm super excited. One, because we got to hit that fraud alert big time. I just played the first one over the weekend for the first time. I mean, I turned it on maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, played for 10 minutes, thought the game was, beautiful, played tight. I didn't go back, and just because I got tons of stuff on the go. But with the new Ori coming, I just hear constant praise about this game. So I turned it back on. I think it was Thursday that I started it, and I beat it late last night. I 100% everything. I got absolutely everything in the entire game.
Oh, that's awesome.
Denied me 2 achievements, one of them being get all the secrets, which I went to True Achievements to check what I needed, and that was just get everything. So that didn't work for me. And same with killing 3 enemies while airborne. And I'm killing 8 enemies at a time while airborne, and it just wouldn't pop either. And other than that, I mean, the game is a masterpiece, I gotta say. Absolutely blew me away. I love a very tight side scroller, that Metroidvania, and it runs deep here, man. He's adorable. The graphics are, in my opinion, amongst the best I've ever seen in any video game ever. It's like I don't even know. I want to call it a cartoon, I guess, because it's certainly animated and extremely vibrant and stuff. It just doesn't look like a video game when you're watching it, and the colors are gorgeous. I like their little attention to detail on stuff that wasn't needed. Like when you do the 3 jumps across the ground, he'll do a long forward, flip, kind of like what Mario does in Mario 64 or Mario Odyssey, or you can duck and do a backflip again. You'll never need that ever, both of them in the game at all. But there's just those little platforming things that we've kind of become expectant to seeing. Tons of secrets. The power-ups that you get totally changed the game as I was going through it. I thought that the story was, for something that has less than 2 paragraphs of text given to you for the whole story, basically, and like no actual spoken dialogue, essentially. It was rather emotional, I will say. Yep. I could see where the story was going, but I love chasing down that owl as the villain, man, that dirty bastard out to get me, slaying all my buds. I got the vengeance, but of course the little twist that they had at the end. The game's 5 years old. I don't know how sensitive people are. I don't necessarily need to give away the ending, but I thought it was pretty cool. It reminded me of a lot of other stories we've seen, something that a little bit of a twist, a turn from the bad to the good, whatever. And it explains the new one, why we're with the baby owl, now that we've raised him as our own little minion. But the game absolutely blew me away. I loved it front to back. The music was fantastic. Humming along to it the whole time. I was slow walking it, as I do in so many games, just for the animations. As you'd walk by the mushrooms and the grass and stuff, it would sway around him. Or when he'd go behind the icebergs, you could see the altered reflection and stuff. It was just, manly. The graphics, I can't say enough about how impressed I was with them. And one of the best parts about waiting as long as I did was the brand new game is coming out. Like, I thought it was the 9th at, midnight for everybody, but it's the 10th. So it's actually tomorrow. So I was extremely bummed. I was like, oh my God, I was going to play the new Ori tonight, but apparently not. But luckily, there's 2 versions of this first Ori game, and they have independent achievement lists. So before the show, for the last hour and a half, I fired up the original version because I originally
that is correct.
Yeah, I beat the definitive edition. So I loaded up the original, and I'm playing through that again, like my version of a speed run. So I'm just ripping through it. I'm going to still 100% everything because it wasn't hard to do. The game is challenging. I didn't find it overly challenging. I never once was going to break my controller. I wasn't screaming obscenities.
That one water part.
Oh, I just passed that again. I
saw that you did the tweet, and I remember someone telling me about it. It's like, oh, this one's gonna break your balls, boom. And I think I got it on the 3rd try. Like, yes, don't get me wrong.
Good.
It really was nerve-wracking getting up there, but when I finally got to the top, it's one of those moments. I sat the controller down and I kind of took a breath.
Well, that's it. Like the game is sweaty, no doubt about it. I mean, my palms were sweaty. Thank God for the rubber grip on the back of the sport controller I'm using for this one. And I mean, I loved it. That water one, it took me about 5 tries. I think it was less than 10 minutes, which was great. In my second playthrough here on that other edition, I just beat it before the show. It felt just as good. That one took me, I think, 3 tries. I got all the little secret orbs on my way up. So that was great. I mean, I loved the game. It was fantastic, so much. So I can't wait for this next one. I guess it's like 3 times as big, heavily refined, and like much refined and expanded upon combat, which is really cool. I appreciated the combat in this one, where you're just shooting out your little electricity orbs that homed in on the enemies, and you could do your different power-ups for the big bomb or charge up dash and the butt slam and stuff like that. I like that, but I'm all in on, if it's functional and it's working great and it just deepens it, I'm all in, because, man, this game impressed me so much. On one hand, I was disappointed that I waited this long, but on the flip side, I got to experience it not once, but I'm going back in for the twice here right before the next one. So I'm going to be ready. Let's put it that way. I'm all in on this Ori, and coming to Game Pass day 1. You know me, man. That is fantastic. I can't say enough good things about Game Pass. This is great. Everyone out there with the service, you have no reason to wait 5 years like I did on the first game. Get in there day 1 as soon as you can. I can't wait, man. I'm super excited. This game was great.
You know, it's funny. I don't want to do a 10 car pileup on the show because we're all about positivity. Here on the Double Barrel Gaming Network, if you will. We will talk about negativity when it's worthy. I seen some things in the chat. Now, of course, this is freedom of speech. Say what you want. Please, for the love of gaming, for the love of your community member sitting beside you, listening to this show, do not bring the one and done nonsense to this program. If you are a Sony person and you utter these words, you are going to get booed off of this incredible show that we have planned for you, because Sony's games, come on, folks, I love them and I buy all their collector's editions. Most of the time, you're playing them once. So don't bring that to this table. Let's celebrate gaming. Let's be excited that Xbox has a AAA game coming out, and it's going to really blow people's socks off. But I have to talk to
real quick. I wanted to say something.
Yeah, sure. Come on in.
On my first playthrough there, when late last night as I was beating it, it was like just incredible. I thought I loved the chase scene at the end, how it all went down. The very end cutscene is playing. I've got the controller down, and it must have taken me probably 30 tries at the checkpoint there. So the game kept resetting. And right as the cutscene started, all of a sudden it's hiccuping in its frames every now and then, and I'm like, oh no, like I don't want to watch this when every 5 seconds it misses a frame is what it looks like. So I'm just like, what are you going to do? So as I'm watching it, the ending is going down, the bird's over me, and then all of a sudden my Xbox makes this horrendous like modem sound from the 90s, man. Just and the game crashes me all the way back to the dashboard, and my heart just hit the ground because I thought when I load this thing up, the game is going to recognize that I'd beaten the game and seen that cutscene, and I don't get to see how Ori ends and watch this little thing play out. But luckily, when I did start the game again, it started me at the very beginning of the end chase.
That's good. Yes.
So I'm kind of like, oh, right. At least I'm going to get to experience the ending again. But I'm going to have to do this damn end chase, which took me like 30 tries. Again, less than maybe 15 minutes, because the tries when you fail are quick.
Yeah, the turnaround is very quick. That's what I love.
So I'm like, all right,
this
is going to be a bit of a gauntlet again. I kind of cracked my knuckles and instantly did it first try, which felt great. And then the end cutscene played butter smooth. No hiccups. It was great. Watched the credits, and it was just a really good feeling. But for a minute there, I was just kind of like,
that'd have been
right
devastating.
at the end.
Yeah. Well, listen, we have to talk to our very special guest, making his debut on Primetime Gaming, and I can guarantee you this won't be the last time that he gets an invite to the show. Insipid Ghost. First of all, not only is it great to have you, it's great to talk gaming with you, but you got an interesting story that I think that the fans may want to hear about. You got a surprise on Friday and maybe a little insight into what gamers could be expecting with Will of the Wisps.
Absolutely, my friend. I opened up my email on a Friday afternoon after a good week at work, teaching the kiddos and doing my thing. And there in my email waiting for me was an early access copy of Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Nice.
There is nothing better to open up your email to than that gift. Now, I got to tell you, I have a special place in my heart for Ori. I've used Ori in my classroom to teach nonverbal theme and storytelling, nonverbal communication, because those developers at Moon Studio are so capable, and they are on the level of Pixar when it comes to expressing emotions without using words. Without with only 2 paragraphs of wording, they bring you that story, and it's just impressive. And so in booting up Ori and the Will of the Wisps, right now I can talk about Act 1. I've put about 6 some odd hours into it. And the first act will take you about 2 to 4 hours or so. It's full Metroidvania in that it will reward you for exploration, and around each and every corner there's something special, something wonderful waiting for you. The game continues to resonate beautifully with me as I play through. This is a special game and a special franchise, and it's a shame that it's taken 5 years, but man, have they put the time in with that 5 years. I got to tell you, Boom, and to everybody in chat, this is not one to miss. If you've got Game Pass, there's no excuse. The game is AAA quality. It's coming in at $30. That collector's edition is gorgeous, and I'm kicking myself for not getting it. It is a fantastic experience thus far. Ask me anything you'd like about it, because goodness gracious, do I have a lot to say.
Is it on the same engine? I was blown away that this was a Unity engine game. It stood out so the quality was incredible. Where a lot of other Unity games I find just they seem to be a tiny bit under something running on like Unreal, let's say. Whereas this game, my God, at the end when the credits came up and it said Unity engine, I was like, whoa, okay. I was wondering if it's the same or if they maybe jumped to Unreal or something like that, if you knew.
I will pull up my fact sheet while I'm talking, but I will tell you this. Every bit of traversal in this game, whether you are walking on a twig, jumping onto a branch in there, every bit of sound is accompanied by this brilliant orchestra that ebbs and flows with the game. There's gleaming water effects that reflect off and bounce around. The lighting is just incredible, as Ori is a bright character himself in a dark world. Blind Forest and Will of the Wisp both really do a great job at spotlighting Ori, because he's so small on screen, and he just exudes a powerful yet vulnerable presence as you go. And it is compelling, and you feel for this character the entire time, the entire way through. And it's just a powerful vibe from start to finish in what I've played so far.
Let me ask you about the weapons.
Yeah,
sure.
I was gonna ask.
Oh, you wanted to ask that.
The boss fights too.
Okay, so fantastic. So the boss fights, every single boss fight that I have encountered thus far in the game requires a level of patience and attention. You cannot go in hyper aggressive and guns blazing, for lack of a better term there. But you have to be patient and observe the clues that exist in the environment. Every single one of the bosses has a vulnerability, and it takes either multiple failed attempts or you simply paying attention to the subtle hints the game gives. And they are brilliant. They range from, small and on your level to massive in size. And I have put up a few clips of what we're allowed to show on VOD at this point already over on my Twitter feed, and you can see varying levels of boss fights, but they are very well designed. You asked about the abilities. Like any Metroidvania, your moveset expands as you explore and access new abilities. You have 3 slots that you can fill in with shards that will give you special abilities unique to your play style. For example, I like to jump, and once I land on a wall, I want to stick, so I take that perk and use it. But those perks augment and adjust your offensive abilities as well. And so that same lightning attack that you're referring to, it's expanded now in Will of the Wisps. You have an arrow attack that can be expanded into a tri-shot if you don't want that. So there's a lot of benefits that the game gives you for exploring the world, and the weapons and the combat are at the very best of what Blind Forest had to offer. That has been my experience start to finish thus far in Will of the Wisp. So it seems to me they took what they did well in the last game, reflected on it, and enhanced it in this new game.
I have a question about the weapons. Is it like a game where like up B uses the hammer and forward B is the sword, and neutral B is like, or not B, whatever is the, like bow, or is it actual weapons you switch between and there's different, moves, abilities, combos for each one?
There are moves and abilities that are tied to or binded to face buttons. So pressing Y for me, you can choose them. Pressing Y for me is what I choose to shoot the arrows with, and they'll aim according to where you're aiming the stick. Certain attacks, like a melee attack, if you're down, if you're using down X because you can bind them, down attack will ground slammed, whereas standard attack will just melee within your area. But what's comfortable and what I like about it is that you can choose what slots into what spot.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay.
So yeah, that allows a bit of comfort for me in my personal play style. And I will also note, gentlemen, I struggled a lot with the platforming in Ori and the Blind Forest, not because the game was poorly laid out, but because it's just designed to be hard, and there is a level of talent required. Having an elite controller and using the back paddle as a jump button has really helped my experience with Will of the Wisps. And that might be on the physical side versus the gameplay design itself. Moreover, it feels to me like they've really refined the little bits and pieces. And while the game is hard, there's an easy mode that exists. So if you've got kids or you want to sit on the couch and share a controller or hang out with the family, it looks to me like it's far more approachable than it otherwise would be. Maybe some lessons that Moon learned from MDHR with Cuphead. Difficulty might hold some people out.
Yes.
Actually, I noticed that with between the differences of the definitive and the originals. The original is what it is. There's no difficulties, whereas in the definitive you could choose normal, hard. I played through on normal, but on the original, I'm actually finding the original to be more difficult because its standard difficulty was a hair above the normal and the definitive.
What about the if you don't mind, what about the audio? I know it's like a 2D game, but do they use sound well, like spatial audio? Like can you hear stuff going on behind you, around you, up top, all that stuff? Or is it pretty like, I don't know, not stereo, but is it pretty like focused on what you're seeing?
So I was wearing Arctis 9Xs from SteelSeries for one headset, and then Rig 900s. So both headsets, it sounded incredible. It did sound spatial. It did sound brilliant. A lot of the sound effects really seemed to match the intensity of what was going on, which is what I really enjoyed by it. If I was jumping and landing from jumping from a high point, the sound sounded different than, say, if I jumped on a smaller scale, at least to me. Moreover, the orchestra and the music brings a sense of immersion to Ori that really capitalizes on some emotional moments early on in the game. And if you got emotional in Blind Forest, I think you'll find yourself doing the same thing because of the sound design, because of what they do with silence, with sound effects for pain, when Ori is struck, for when enemies are struck, and when the orchestra ramps up and whatnot. So there's a lot going on with that sound design that makes me impressed and excited.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, first of all, thank you so much for the outstanding insight. When I planned this show, thanks to Shady, of course, wanting to talk about it, because I wasn't sure where it was going to fit in. I kind of needed that fifth topic, and it just worked out that Shady suggested it. We'll have a gentleman on that actually plays it, been playing it well in advance, this is going better than I could have possibly imagined. But you know what? It has been 5 long years since the original game launched on the Xbox One. And obviously, Ori and the Blind Forest saw huge critical and commercial success. In fact, Moon Studios, who's a developer of the stellar Metroidvania style that is literally living and breathing, it's living and breathing artwork is what I'd like to consider it. What's more interesting than anything is this is supposed to be, supposedly, up to as much as 3 times as big as the original. And the original one was kind of sizable. But what's crazy is that the company only has 50 employees. And this is the kind of work that they're working on. And we know that they're working on something else that's not Ori 3, which is really interesting. Cybernox, I want to get to your opinion on this. Obviously, the excitement for this Xbox and PC exclusive have been mounting since its huge reveal, and the wait is nearly over. And being that it's, this is, besides being a win-win for the Xbox Game Pass subscribers, whether you do that on PC or you're going to play it on your Xbox One, the collector's edition is nothing short of amazing. I know there are a lot of people, and I think Luke said it, that he kicks himself for not getting it. The minute I saw it, I pre-ordered on Amazon. I could not resist. It was my way of kind of paying it forward to these devs, letting them know that I love them, I care about them, and listen, I'm not going to Game Pass it. But what's your excitement levels, Cyber, for Ori and the Will of the Wisp?
Man, my excitement level is through the roof. I remember playing this game when it first came out, like you mentioned just now, 5 years ago, and I couldn't believe, how immersed I was in that world, how engaged I was. Everything about that game, like it was fantastic. Even Shady mentioned, and so did Luke, to the emotional connection you have to this character, and through to the story as well. And everything they're doing, it seems to be bigger and better. They have boss fights now. They're introducing new weapons and a different way to play. I just can't wait to get my hands on it. It's been a little while. I know we were waiting for this They announced this kind of early, and we've been just waiting, patiently waiting for it. But I think the end result, I think we're going to be extremely happy about it. And I'm glad that we have somebody on the panel that actually played it, that can give us some, nice feedback. And that just gets me even more hyped. I was just talking to you guys before we went live. I looked at it. I was just like, oh, wait a second. I can pre-install it right now. I pre-installed it, and I can't wait for tomorrow night, man, so I can start playing this game. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously this is the one game. I mean, obviously we have 2020 is going to be an incredible year. I mean, if you just look at what we already know, besides Ori, right? We have some really big ones coming out. You have Cyberpunk, you have Ghost of Tsushima, you have Last of Us 2, you have Halo
Doom Eternal next week. My God,
Doom Eternal. I mean, it is going to be a pretty expensive and painful for your wallet kind of experience, but one that we all hope we continue to have, because listen, it's gaming. Tempest Sun, let me get your opinion about this, because obviously this is going into Game Pass, and this is one of those prime reasons where you look at what you spend monthly, and sometimes you have to reflect, right? You have to sit back and say, you know what? There are things that I need. There are things that I don't need. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, I have to say the F word, is fucking one of them that you need. Okay? So what are your thoughts of this being one of those premier titles, these marquee titles that may not have a AAA budget, but certainly is ushering in the AAA experience?
Well, first of all, with the first thing you said, it is on Game Pass, and so why would you not try it? I mean, it's a no-brainer. I kind of wish I had Game Pass when I tried the first one. I did try the first one, and I could tell it was special. Everything about it just seemed phenomenal. Before, I could say honestly that it just, these types of games just quite aren't my cup of tea. And I could tell it was great, but I just never finished it. I didn't even actually play it that much. None of these games really did it for me until just recently. I think I'm getting close to beating Indivisible, which is on Game Pass as well. Decided to give that a try.
That's a great game. Hard as balls, by the way.
Yeah, and I fell in love with the platforming aspect. It's so much fun. And then on top of that, with that game, I mean, that's like more of a JRPG once you actually attack the enemy.
Yes.
It goes into like a JRPG system. So for me, I love JRPG. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I'm enjoying that so much. I got to thinking about, I'm like, well, what else is coming out that's kind of like this? And I know they're very different, but I was like, well, the Wisps is coming. And so because of that game now, and realizing how much I enjoyed that one, I'm actually really looking forward to Will of the Wisps. I sent the trailer to my wife. I'm like, man, this looks awesome, dude. Because before I saw it, it looked beautiful. But now that I have a little bit more appreciation for this type of game, I was like, now I'm really excited. When I get it, I have to make sure I beat it before the 17th.
Yeah, well, obviously the world ends on the 17th, not literally, but figuratively, of course.
Yeah, everything else, yeah, pretty much, yeah, for me. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually really excited to hear the music. I mean, the collector's edition that you showed us comes with 2 soundtracks.
Yes.
The piano version and the soundtrack. So I'm like, it's got to be a really big deal. And I do remember the little bit I played the first one, the soundtrack, it really hit me hard for the little bit I played it. So it looks incredible. I liked everything that Insipid said about it. So I don't know, man. It's what, tomorrow night? Is that right, Shady?
Yes.
Tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I'll have to go to sleep a little later than I was expecting tomorrow night.
I am going to say this. The collector's edition was only $50 for all that you get in that picture that I showed. And I'll bring it back up. This whole kit and caboodle, if you will, was where's the picture? Here we go. $50. Steelbook, 2 soundtracks, art book, and of course the game. Listen, folks.
Nice.
It is, again, nothing wrong at all with playing it in Game Pass. I applaud you if you do. But for me, I'm a big fan. If you're a fan of Double Barrel Gaming, you know that I buy collector's edition. And yes, I am doing an unboxing of the Doom Eternal helmet wearing. I'm going to try and kill myself this time.
Boom. Can I say just one more thing about
Sure. This is a conversational podcast. Talk away.
I think this is going to be a good test too for a game that's on Game Pass to the caliber of Ori, right? I think the real big test we're going to see is when Halo Infinite comes out. But for all of those that say, oh, the game doesn't sell, I think the Ori community is a very, very strong community that's going to support the game both in Game Pass and as on retail as well.
I agree.
The game as well. I think this is going to be a good testament to that. This game is.
No, I think would have been neat is if they would have incorporated some kind of aspect of co-op. I know it's not the same game at all, but something similar is Guacamelee, and that has cooperative.
Can I speak on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I will tell you something I neglected to tell you earlier. There is not co-op in the game, but something that you do have in the game is within the world. There are challenge totems that will challenge you to get from point A to point B or accomplish certain objectives along the way. And in that, boys, are leaderboards. So you do get a sense of camaraderie along the way. And it felt oddly out of place at first, but it blends so well with the game, and it's so subtly in there. There is an element of competition between you and your friends list to get the best times on those leaderboards. And I found myself finding little tricks to traversal as I went and competing with people whom I'd not ever met before just to get a couple seconds shaved off of time and getting from A to B. So while there's not co-op, there is an element of camaraderie or friendly competition between players of Ori, and I'm very curious to see how the community plays out with that. Did they want an isolated solo experience, or more to your point, something in co-op with a game as difficult as this? I wonder if this is a testing ground for that, or at least that very
interesting.
It's like even if it was never in the campaign, just some kind of a different mode, totally separate to the campaign itself. You could have different type of verses or speed runnings where you're actually running with buddies or combat challenges or something. Like they work really well in Guacamelee and a couple other side-scrolling games that have just very tight controls. And Ori is insanely tight, so I think it would go well. But if it is what it is, then I'm certainly not going to complain because the first one was brilliant, and I think this next one's going to eclipse it. So
is Ori and 60 frames? That's one thing I forgot to ask.
Ooh, that I don't know. Now I've been playing on an Xbox One X on a 4K TV. Everything looks smooth as butter. That's for sure. There were a few stutters here and there. I do want to say there were a few stutters. Nothing to the level that I saw the internet perhaps exaggerating here and there. It was noticeable, and I'd be remiss not to point it out. But I'm told that the day one patch is going to be rectifying a lot of those concerns.
Yes, that has been confirmed by Moon Studios.
If I had to guess on the One X, I think it is 60 frames because Moon Studios is talking about 120 frames on the Series X. They don't even mention 60 on the Series X. They're jumping to 120. So I would think it's 60.
Yeah, if it was 30, there's no way they'd be talking about 120. So
yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Let's get Gaming Forte in here. Gaming Forte, you've been sitting there patiently chomping at the bit to jump in here. Is Ori and the Will of the Wisps something that you're going to be getting into when it launches tomorrow at midnight?
So you will be very happy to know when you get that collector's edition of Ori in your hand. That collector edition, it's solid. It's hard.
And you got one already, didn't you?
I got it in yesterday. When I as soon as I opened up the box and I saw it, I was like, "Holy crap, this thing is huge!" And man, it's like, dude, it reminded me of the Halo Reach collector's edition. The way the
was
box was
awesome.
Set up.
Yes,
it feels even more solid than that collector's edition was, and it's only $50, so definitely. I'm a fraud, just like Shady on this one. I literally just started playing the game like 2 days ago. I was like,
that's all right.
I was like, well, you know, me being Mr. Destiny, it's kind of hard to get away from that game. So it's like I have a backlog that's just so ridiculous. But then I was just listening to other people in the community talk about it, and I was like, man, I already know Ori's a good game because I seen it. I actually played it a little bit, but I just never, I always felt like I should be working on Destiny because I need to do this, I need to do that, and it's like a freaking job. And then I said,
those damn looters, man.
So I told myself like 2 days ago, I said, bro, You don't work on Tuesday, you don't work on Wednesday, and you don't work on Thursday next week. Ori comes out midnight on Tuesday night. You need to finish the first one before the second one comes out. So I am about 3/4 of the way through, and I can only echo what everybody else has been saying. I'm a sucker for music, and music in this game is freaking incredible. I love games like Rayman Legends and stuff, and all this does is just remind me of just the platforming in that game, but just even more tighter than something in that game actually gives you. Hearing about the boss battles and all the things that they just listen to player feedback in for the new one is basically the only thing about this game that I wish had more in it. So the second one, knowing that is something that they really keyed in on, is something I'm looking very forward to. But in general, man, it's like, I played on the Xbox One X and it's amazing. I played the first one great on the Xbox One X. I'm playing right now because I'm on my PC. I'm playing on my PC, and playing this game in ultra wide is a game changer.
Yeah, I would imagine
it's like you can see everything. Like it's pretty ridiculous. Overall, I think you're absolutely right when you say play this game with an Elite controller if you have one, because those back buttons will make it a lot easier for you to traverse the environments. I'm just used to playing every game with these paddles like this, so it's nothing really new to me. But I am super excited for the new one. I will finish this game before midnight tomorrow night, and I will be diving deep in on this game when it does release tomorrow night at midnight. And me too, Shady. I was usually games release on Monday night going into Tuesday. I didn't realize this was a Wednesday, technically a Wednesday release, which is kind of weird. But look, man, it's in Game Pass. It gives you every reason to try it. And if you want to just get the gist of what the gameplay is like, boot up the first one. You can play it right now. The definitive edition is in there. It kind of gives you a feel of how the game feels and looks now. It just think that everything's turned to 11 when the new one comes out from what you played in that one. And this one runs at a solid frame rate on both systems. So you're gonna get it at a treat. So I think anybody that wants to try it, jump in and do it. But I'm enjoying the game very much right now and cannot wait for the next one. And you will love that collector's edition when you get it.
And just a fun fact too, it's coming out 5 years to the date.
That's why it's not on
Yeah.
Tuesday. It's on Wednesday. They did that specifically for the 5-year anniversary. So yes, that's a great point. Look, let me just say this. This has been a great topic. This is the way I expect to put on these shows. I know some people were like, "Yeah, next topic." Well, listen, if you're bored, I can just tell you that maybe the show isn't for you. I don't know what to tell you. We everyone here has a voice. Everyone's opinion here matters. If it doesn't matter to you, then maybe this fucking show is not for you either. So let's just get that other curse. That's my second and only curse for the rest of the day. I can't get hit with Copa, so we're good. Let's move on to the next topic. Now listen, I don't like to fight with people. I'm not a fighter. I'm more of a lover. But I'll bust someone's ass if I have to. So,
baby.
So let's just take it easy, folks. Okay. So let's get into the hot, simmery, and the nastiness of messages that I'm going to get in both on Twitter and, of course, the comment section, which can be nasty and toxic. But I like to walk in these swamps of grossness. As you can see by the title, we're going to be talking about the rumor that has been raging in the last couple of days regarding the PlayStation 5. And according to certain reports that have not been confirmed, the PlayStation 5 is going to be apparently using the RDNA 2 technology that has been confirmed for the Xbox Series X. Now, obviously, the price and power of the PlayStation 5 has been at the forefront of gaming media with tons of articles and social media like Twitter, where the unfortunate console war rages on. AMD just wrapped on their 2020 AMD Financial Analyst Day, and some very interesting information was brought to our attention by WCCFtech.com concerning the PlayStation 5. The event was packed with new information and roadmaps for the company's future of Zen 3, Zen 4 CPUs, and RDNA graphic cards, which will undoubtedly give the PC master race a huge boner. Now, with that said, it was brought to our attention this evening in the late breaking news. See, I had wrote this topic. Now, usually when I prepare for primetime gaming, I start writing the show usually right after Breakfast with Boom on Friday mornings or afternoons, because obviously I have the weekend and I'm always writing. In fact, I'm writing more now than I've ever been, and I'm actually writing more than I'm playing games, which is what kind of disappoints me about Ori coming out tomorrow, because I'm neck deep in the Division 2, the Warlords of New York, and my God, that is an amazing DLC for a game that is now $3. And if you did not get it, I was giving away free copies. DM me, and if you are someone that follows me and you're interested, I will send you the copy for free. I said this to my followers. I said this to the Patreon supporters, and of course the channel members. If you want the game, I have a few copies left. I'll be more than happy to send it to you. All I need is your mailing address. It's that simple. But getting back to the PlayStation 5. Now, we have several people in the community that are like detectives. And one particular gentleman, which I cannot, oh my God, I forgot his name. Oh, okay. You know what? Let me look it up. Anyway, getting back to the point is that I'm constantly getting information from people like D Black Raven and The Finest. Dreadpool is another notorious sleuth. Several other people. Idle Sloth is someone that is constantly making news. And he sent me something today. He posted it on his Twitter, which is obviously going to get millions of likes and people clicking on it. We had, according to the story that I pulled from WCCF Tech, there was an assumption made based on a plural. And what do I mean by that? Well, David Wang of the Radeon Technology Group took the stage to announce the RDNA 2 GPUs will boast hardware, accelerated ray tracing, and his wording very much implied by saying consoles with an S. Now, there were several sites that ran with this, basically confirming to the PlayStation Nation, which I am part of, that the PlayStation 5 will in fact be running not only Zen 2, but the RDNA 2 tech, tech that has been confirmed already for the 12 teraflop beast known as the Xbox Series X. Well, folks, I hate to be the asshole in the group, but I have to bring up a picture that was a part of this. This is directly from S.I.E. of Japan. This is what he put on his thing. Now I'm going to move the banner. Let me get that out of the way so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This was the hardware specs from S.I.E. Japan. And everything is pretty much, standard fare, which what we know. But you see where the eyeballs are? Now, I didn't put that in there. This is Idle Sloth. If I put it in there, I'll take full responsibility. GPU, AMD, Radeon, RDNA.
Ooh,
not 2.
Where's that 2?
There's no 2. There's no 2, and this is from S.I.E. Japan. Currently, it's still up. Now, if it stays up, there's room for concern that it's going to either be RDNA 1 or a hybrid of sorts of an RDNA 1 and RDNA 2, not the full-on package that we've seen Microsoft touting. I have to go to the panel. I've talked enough. Okay. I want to go to Gaming Forte. Gaming Forte, I go to you first because you, my friend, are someone that is, you obviously not only have your incredible YouTube channel, not only are you a voice on several amazing podcasts, but you yourself work with, of course, the public because you work for GameStop, and the PlayStation 5 is going to be a big seller, just like the Xbox One, the Xbox Series S and X when the S is announced. What are your personal thoughts of the confirmation, or let me reword that, the somewhat confirmation that this was pulled directly from S.I.E. Japan? This is on their website. Is this damning that the PlayStation 5 will not be as powerful as the Xbox Series X?
Man, so when it comes to information like this, I mean, the only thing that is troublesome is the fact that it did come from the S.I.E. or S.E.I. website, which is kind of, especially since we were talking earlier, if they haven't pulled it down by now, it's kind of, stating that, hey man, this might be true, and that's why we're leaving this up there. There's no reason to pull it down if it's the truth. But I've been warning people for the last couple of months over this. When it comes to these systems, until you hear confirmation from the horse's mouth in words or in an article where they say this is what's in the system, good or bad, just take everything with a grain of salt. Now, there has been more information out, and it's the thing. Sony hasn't really said anything, so
Right.
they leave a lot of stuff to interpretation. By them not coming out and stating what's inside the system, every little mix-up or anything like that, when it comes to what's actually in the box that gets leaked out or they get accidentally posted, they might miss the number 2 on RDNA, and it could just be somebody that was writing an article. They just did a clerical error on it. It could be that.
Possible. Yeah.
But guess what? When you don't tell anybody anything, you leave the masses to basically speculate. And when you speculate, you go off of common knowledge of the stuff that you know. So I don't knock anybody for saying, hey, this looks kind of funny. It's supposed to be RDNA 2. The new Xbox has got that in it. This system is saying RDNA. It's just saying RDNA. So what's the give on this? And that's just more for we can just get the conversation started with Sony. Like, hey, why won't you officially tell us what's in this box so everybody can stop guessing? That was the one thing when Microsoft announced and they came out and said what was in the system. I tweeted it instantly. I said, oh, God. I say, thank God we can actually stop speculating on one system. Now it's Sony's turn, so we can stop speculating on that one. But look, if this is true, it's not a deal breaker because
it certainly is not a deal breaker. I mean, listen, folks, we have to understand something. We're talking about speculation here, and I am not banging a drum that Sony is less powerful, folks. I'm buying a PS5 day one. Do I want it to have RDNA 2?
Yes.
You bet your ass I do, because I'm paying $500 like everybody else.
I'll tell you why a lot of people have the tone that most people have when they look at this article and see it says RDNA and not RDNA 2. It's not anybody's fault. It's just the simple fact that when you're an Xbox fan or a PlayStation fan, when you hear so much of the rhetoric from the other side of the aisle, well, our system's more powerful, we got this, we got that. But then when stuff comes out that shows that might not be the case, like people like Boom, they just question. It's like, okay, you said it's going to be more powerful, but why is this being stated, or why is this being found on a website that's showing that may not be the case? It's not to basically call out the true fans of the system that don't really care about the power. They just want to play the games. It's for those people that just want to have this narrative about it's Xbox versus PlayStation and our system is stronger than yours. It's basically just to combat that conversation, to keep going back and forth, because truth be told, both these systems are going to be freaking incredible.
Sure, they are.
And you're going to be happy to have either one of them. But for the people that go out there and just say, oh man, this system's going to be it's going to destroy the Xbox, or it's going to destroy the PlayStation and stuff like that. Those are the people that I'll be like, okay, pump your brakes. Let's take a breath and see what's going to happen here, because even if this is true and it's only RDNA 1 and say 9 to 10, maybe 11 teraflops, you're still going to get 60 frames per second. You're probably still more likely going to get 4K gaming. You're going to get everything that you did not get in the last generation with the PS4 and Xbox One under the roof of the PlayStation 5. It's just not going to probably be as powerful as the system that is competing against. And guess what? The only people that really truly care about that are the fanboys that don't really play games, and all they do is talk on Twitter about the stuff that they wish they owned versus the stuff that they actually own. So this could be damning for that conversation, but ultimately for the people that do not care and they just want to play freaking games like everybody on this panel, this is just a podcast conversation right now. It's something to get people amped up and to get them thinking about, hey, maybe I want to get the next Xbox because maybe the PlayStation isn't as more powerful as the next PlayStation. And guess what? If I start getting most of my friends thinking that way, then we can have a movement where everybody starts moving to the other platform, especially if Microsoft delivers on the one thing that most people really care about or should care about, which is games.
Right.
And Ori's
at the end of the day, it's about playing and having
Ori
fun.
is going to be the first one of this, not this generation, but the first one going into the next generation that has a chance to prove that. And then it's just going to be better and better going forward. So everybody calm down, but guess what? This is troubling if it's the case, because Sony could start the little chink in the armor, but I'm willing to wait. But Sony's just making it hard because they're not saying anything, which is the one thing that's frustrating about all of this.
It does say a lot with their silence.
Yeah, exactly.
The old adage, the silence is deafening. Again, folks, we have to look at the Sony that dominated this entire generation, right? They were in your face, Sony. Everyone cheered. Every time Microsoft took one step forward, they jumped in front of them 6 paces ahead with a bigger and more pronounced announcement, right? It was up in your face. It was bullying for first place. Let me tell you something. And I always, if you listen to this show, you're going to know I've always praised Sony with their incredible marketing. Their marketing has ruled the day for them. The fact that all we've been hearing is Sony's waiting for Microsoft to make a move. Again, we got to remember, and you brought this up the last time, Forte, this is a very different Sony. All of those players from the launch of the PS4 are gone. They're not making the decisions. This is a Jim Ryan PlayStation now. It's run like a business, very, very tight to the vest. And obviously, they're not making the same moves that most of us who are especially in the podcasting community and we're asking questions.
Boom, can I jump in on that?
Well, go ahead.
You know what? I was actually going to go to you next, Luke, because I just kind of want to just read the exact.
Well, if Lou's going to go next, let me add one more thing to what you just said, though. So I'll give you a little insight. Now, my little corner of the world, my little GameStop cover of the world, where my store is like a 1.5 million, don't mean that it's very small. But I can tell you this: I have a sign-up sheet. It's completely separate from the one that they have on GameStop.com that they ask you to sign up if you want to be notified of the systems. I have about a good 120 people, 125 people on that list that want to be notified by us when the next generation systems are reservable just for our store. And I asked 3 different questions. I asked one question: your name, what system do you want, what are you trading in your old system, and what kind of games do you like on that system, so we can make sure, basically just some answers so we can make sure when we call them, hey, this game is reservable with it, this game or this, make sure you bring this system in, all just simple stuff. But the funny thing is, I have more people on that list that want to buy both than I ever thought I would.
I told you that. I
have
this is
more
be the generation of dual console.
Most people, and I asked them, and most of the people I say, they say, as you want to be on both? They say, yeah, I want to be on both. I said, well, what makes you want to be on both? And he was like, you know what? I love Sony's first party exclusives, but Game Pass intrigues me. And the first thing, and that's like, no lie, it's the first time outside of our echo chamber of Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
I've actually heard people come into the store without me telling them about Game Pass, saying that Game Pass is like kind of a reason for them to have that system. They say I might still play on my PlayStation more, but I can see myself playing on the Xbox a little bit more just for third-party stuff because there's so many games available in that ecosystem. And I tell them, I say, you do know that PlayStation has a version of that too. It's called PlayStation Now. You just don't get the first-party games in there. They said, well, Microsoft putting their first-party games in there is kind of the deal for me.
Yeah.
They say, I was like, well, what games do you play? They said, oh, the new Halo's coming out day one, I hear. I said, yeah, you're right. And so there's more people that's on that list that want both systems that just want individual systems. I won't give a number on it, but it's more. So Microsoft doing something right when it comes to that. And I believe it's all about player choice. Players want to be able to enjoy the games that they want to play on. We hear all of these conversations about the Twitter, not about the war of consoles and stuff. These people that are walking in the store buying these systems don't care less about that. They just want to play games, and that's all that freaking matters. But go ahead, Boom. That's all I want to say.
Damn, man. What's the address of that store you work on, man? Twilight Zone Avenue. You gotta tell you.
Right.
Compared to Twitter, it's a nice thing to hear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm going to get to you next, Shady. But Luke, before I get to you, brother, let me just catch up on some of these super chats. First of all, Infinite drops a $5 super chat, and he says this: testing 1, 2, 3, making sure this is working. 343 watching. Hit that like button. Well, sir, I'm happy to admit that we are at 410. So if you are here, if you are enjoying today's show, I highly request that you be kind and hit the like button. If I insulted you with my banter, if my cursing bled your virgin ears, then hit the down button. And you know what? It's okay. You can still stay and listen because everyone here is welcome. Let me see. Who else did I miss? I know I missed somebody. This chat is really going crazy. Eagles fan 76 drops a $2 super chat. Thank you for being here, my friend. And of course, your generosity. He says, you think there's a reason Xbox said RDNA 2? I do. I think the reason why they've said it is because they know that Sony doesn't have it. And they have not talked about it yet. And I think that they're kind of, maybe they're becoming the bully. But listen, Luke, let me get to your opinion. First of all, look, here's the thing. If you look at Ghost of Tsushima, if you look at The Last of Us 2, if you look at Final Fantasy VII, someone can easily say, well, listen, Boom, we're doing it with the 1.8 teraflops. So 9.2 RDNA 1 is going to be great. And I would agree with you. I would wholeheartedly agree with you because those games are going to look amazing. But we also have to remember that, again, this is not picking on the toxic Sony fan base, which is minute because I know a lot of Sony players and they're gentlemen, right? But each community has that group of a-holes, let's just call them, that just don't know how to act. Let's just say that. And of course, 1080p makes you a better gamer. 2 blades of grass more makes you a worse gamer, according to Digital Foundry. You know, if you are an Xbox gamer and that's your only console, you can kindly admit that you have been browbeaten by the 10% of assholes, give or take, from each community that kind of just want to be dicks about it. But I'm sorry to say, the silence that Sony has been showing for months now is not only unacceptable, it is so unlike the Sony that we all know and love that it's actually concerning. Luke, what are your thoughts on the potential of it not being RDNA 2, like was reported, that we just, again, I brought up the graphic. This is from, S.I.E. or, am I saying it wrong? Is it S.E.I. or is it S.I.E.? I thought it was Sony Entertainment Interactive. I thought that's what it was. But regardless,
I think it's S.I.E.
It's S.I.E.
Okay.
Sony Interactive.
Okay. Yeah. So it is. I did have it correct. I want to make sure because I'm the host. I don't want to like a boob. But let me get back to Luke. Luke, what are your thoughts on this? Is the RDNA 2 versus RDNA that big of a deal?
It is a big deal but not in the way that you are asking. I think it behooves everybody in the chat, and it should tell you something about the content I make and bring you to, or send you away from what it is I do. But everybody on this panel seems to be platform agnostic with a preference. We all seem to enjoy our preferred console and celebrate games wherever, and that is the way that gaming should indeed be, because there are great games to enjoy everywhere. Now, who cares about RDNA? I'll tell you who cares. Those gamers who are on a budget, because RDNA 2 is going to be more expensive. And if you're planning to invest in one new console for this next gen, two new consoles, if you're planning to take advantage of the various services, that is where RDNA 2 matters to me, because I recognize the power and the credibility and the fidelity that comes with that highest level performing system. Playing Control on an Xbox One X was very different than someone playing on an Xbox One S. I recognize the power conversation, and it's something that I've had to compose myself with as I create content, recognizing not everyone is as fortunate to play on 4K TV or with an Xbox One X. And the Series X RDNA 2, the potential of a PlayStation 5 with RDNA 2 or not will greatly affect the costs of these systems, and thus affect who and how they are investing in these systems, these consumer bases. So that is where I care about the power factor. When it comes to games and gaming experiences, we've known and had multiple examples throughout every generation that power does not determine fun. And that is a conversation that becomes tired very quickly. So my hope is that if there is an RDNA 2 structure in the PlayStation 5, that it pushes Microsoft to make their price competitive.
Yes.
And that it pushes the two to bring me the best as the consumer, because as these two console makers war, I benefit.
You win. Gamers win.
Man, if we would not have Game Pass, if not for Microsoft's stuttering and failing in 2013, 14, and 15.
Strong point.
And so I'm having a blast with it. So that is where I am invested in the conversation about RDNA 2. When it comes to ray tracing and the on hardware level ability to pair with 4K and HDR and bring lifelike visuals, that is wonderful. And I'm excited by that. But I care more about how much fun I'm going to have with whatever game is out there. Make it be good, please. And I want to not break the bank whenever I can avoid it, because when I save money, that allows me to invest in collector's editions.
Yes,
or go to a nice dinner or any of that respect. So that is where I approach this conversation, less from a tech side, because at the end of the day, I just want to play.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great point. Listen, folks, again, I think most people on this panel support multiple consoles because at our hearts, even, you know, and I actually had someone on Twitter kind of really throw me under the bus. I'm not going to say who it was, and I wasn't insulted. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Basically, I put out a tweet. Saying that if you're new, you know, to the community, welcome. You know, like I always do. You know, I have 3 podcasts. You know, it talks about all the consoles. And basically, he said that because I had a preference to the Xbox, that I was a liar. Basically, is what he was saying. And of course, it's ridiculous.
And that's not true.
No,
that's not true.
Of course, it's not true.
Yeah, preference is not the same thing as being platform agnostic and enjoying games wherever. Prefer to play where you want to play, but that's the Microsoft's message right now. Play where you want to play, and it's our job to bring you to us. It's their job to entice me, and if they're doing it well, they got my money, and if they're not, I'm going to hold off and enjoy somewhere else. And I hope, again, I know I'm new to your chat and to your audience. I hope that tells you something about me and brings the right people in, because that's the conversation we should have.
Absolutely.
And enjoy for each other.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, at the end of the day, we are all gamers. I thoroughly enjoy, and again, I don't have to say it, how much I enjoy Sony's single player, because I'm an old school. First of all, I'm going to be 50, right? So I'm the old man on campus, and I came from an era where single player, you know, sitting with your buddy, sitting with my brother Dan, you know, or sitting with my friends playing games. You know, that was the couch co-op experience that was brought back in the old days. But I've always enjoyed single player. Sure, do I play some multiplayer? Absolutely. But for the most part, I prefer being a single player type of gamer. But you know what? Let's move on. Let's move on to Shade. Let me get your opinion on this. You know, obviously, you are not shy from going after, as you call it, the zealots of the PlayStation brand, who are, of course, as we know, that 10% that are just nasty. And they go out of their way to kind of make it, to give people a hard time just because they can. And you have no problem going to war with them. But you know what? We have to talk about specs here. Obviously, when you hearken back to 2013, power mattered. Power mattered so much so that one of the head of Sony's told you that 1080p made you a better gamer and was very public about that, very in your face about that. So we saw that narrative, if you will, change with the Xbox One X. And then, of course, listen, take nothing away from Sony. 2018, great year. 2019, not so much. 2020, spectacular, right? So they've had up and down years. They have great first parties. No one's denying that. But when you look at the future of gaming, these consoles are going to be basically mini rigs. Yes, sure, the PC Master Race is going to be able to run things at 240 frames per second on ultra wide screens, on ultra settings, and that's great if you are that kind of a gamer. I'm not. I'm a sit in front of your couch, console under the TV kind of gamer. I always have been. But what is your opinion on Sony's silence? But more importantly, this graphic that I put up earlier directly from S.I.E. claiming RDNA 1 as opposed to the rumored RDNA 2.
I know, man. We're down here digging around in rumors, speculation, looking at each individual syllable of announcements said and stuff like that. I love how you described it as like the swamp of dirtiness.
Yes,
I like to think of more of like the bog of eternal stench. And my God, it's rife with the zealots. My God, left and right, everywhere. Let me tell you. When I first heard this news that I forgot the name, but this conference
Idle Floth, it was the guy that posted it,
and he was saying 2 consoles, not the one this morning, but the actual, I think it was the AMD event when they said that they're going to have RDNA 2 in the future consoles, and they want to make ray tracing more ubiquitous and stuff like that. And this is where people were like, "Aha! Confirmed with PlayStation 5 RDNA 2." I had my, let's call it enthusiast hat on for Xbox at the time. And what I took that saying as was the consoles were the Series X and the, not the Scarlet, sorry, but the Lockhart. It's the Lockhart. I think it was a week ago. Digital Foundry did a proposed Lockhart specs build on what this thing is going to run. And in their opinion, it will also have RDNA 2. It will also have ray tracing cores. It'll just be missing out on resolution, some on-screen effects here and there, and frame rate.
60 FPS, 1440p kind of a console.
Yeah, but by and large, it was running the same like chipset, just toned down that the Series X would. So I took that as they're talking about both Microsoft consoles, not the Sony console. And the reason I'm not saying that because I hope Sony isn't as powerful. Honestly, I wish that they were more close than further apart all the time. I don't want to go in and spend another generation on social media or on like the big news sites or anything else and have 90% of the damn talk going down where people are counting blades of grass or counting pixels and all that kind of garbage. I'd rather be talking about the games themselves, not the tiny itty bitty differences. We're all getting our microscopes out to see if they're even there. I don't want that again for an entire generation. So if these consoles were way more on par with each other, that would be ideal because it would help eliminate that crap, I would hope. And we could get back to
just deal with
about
the games versus games.
That's right. Yeah. What are these games? What are they bringing? How fun are they? Yada, yada. That. I'd rather that. So that being said, with this new news this morning about S.I.E. posting just RDNA, coupled with the fact that Sony is whisper quiet, meanwhile, Xbox is screaming loud. Yes, Xbox needs to be more aggressive this time around. They have to be, especially as the underdog, quote unquote. But they're dropping numbers that if Sony could beat them, and we know Sony, even though it's a different crew running PlayStation, if you have a better number, it's easy to say it. Yeah, we're better than 12. Boom, done. we're better than RDNA. We have RDNA 2 as well. We have this, we have that. Instead, we get absolutely nothing. And I don't think we're ever going to officially from Sony. I think when they actually come out and say something, it's going to be something generic like 2 to 3 times more powerful than the PlayStation Pro. And they'll just let some guy do the math after he's deconstructed the console when it's out at launch. And they'll just let the generic public figure it out. They're not going to come out and say 9.2 teraflops if true. We'll never hear that term out of Sony's mouth officially on any conference, in my opinion. They're just going to say something, like I said, double the Pro. And that's that, like more powerful and just, yep. So that's that, I think. I think the 2 consoles was referring to Xbox's consoles. This morning's information here kind of points more towards that direction, even in my opinion as well. It's not going to be in Sony's, which again is a bit of a shame. It's obviously going to be better than what people have now. But I mean, even though I'm a big Xbox fan and that's the platform I support mainly and almost exclusively going forward. I mean, I might have a Nintendo maybe later, but as of now, I've had a PlayStation console for 25 years. And I realized that really the last one, the PlayStation 4 and even the 3, I was just buying out of more habit. I just want to have access to all the games, but I realized
you bought most of this the first party stuff used, right?
Oh yeah, especially this gen, all of it is. But beyond that, I just don't turn it on there. I have more games now than I've ever had, and the number is only growing. We're not rebooting our game count this generation. We're bringing them all with us.
Mm-hmm.
I play so much multiplayer. I play a ton of looters. As great as Sony's games are, I know they are. I play them. I own them. I played them and own them. I didn't beat any of them because I just got bored. But I just don't have the gaming time to warrant having an entire console for just a few games. And because streaming is now becoming a thing, I believe that I'll be able to stream those few Sony titles to me, right? So as an Xbox big fan, I'm not going to cheerlead it if we come out, because I don't want to go into a generation where it's nothing but, yeah, but our ray tracing has point X, whatever the fuck, more of this and whatever, more of that. And we've got 50% more tree density. I don't want to hear that garbage. I don't. I'm sure it's coming in some aspect, but at the end of the day, I hope the best for everybody. If we just look at the games for what they are, it's entertainment. I think it's way more fun. But I wouldn't be shocked if Sony doesn't have RDNA 2 at all. Their silence says so much. This news this morning posted by apparently official them also says a lot, especially if it's still up. And I think that originally when the buddy there was talking about consoles, it was Microsoft's 2 consoles, which we know are basically a guaranteed thing. So that kind of clears that up for me. But if I was a Sony diehard, I wouldn't feel brutalized inside or anything else. It's still going to play games. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
but,
I'm sure it is. Listen, like I said, listen. I wouldn't miss a console launch for anything. I've owned just about every console ever released since 1978, and I love gaming. And I would not miss the PlayStation 5. Like I said, even if I had to collect cans to afford both consoles, I would figure it out to get it.
I just saw in the chat that so AMD went behind Microsoft's back and confirmed the Lockhart. No, actually, Phil Spencer confirmed more than one console when he first spoke about the Project Scarlet. It was a family of consoles,
yes, not
one. So there's already talk of 2 consoles. The very first time we were ever officially told about next gen. So there's that as well.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. You know, obviously, 10%, I'm going to get to you. But before I do, I have to catch up on the incredible generosity of this community. Eagles fan 76 drops a $2 super chat and says, remember, PR chooses their words carefully. RDNA too. That's very true, especially with Sony. They're very meticulous about putting it out. And Corey Polo drops an outstanding and very generous $10 super chat. Dude, thank you so much for being here. And of course, thank you for your generosity. He says, keep charging, Broham. Love it. Thank you so much. And Sastry drops a $5 super chat. First of all, thanks for being here. Really appreciate your support. But they say, why would RDNA 2 be on the PS5 if RDNA was co-developed by MS? VRS is built into RDNA 2, which is exclusive to Microsoft. Consoles would mean many things. You know what? That's a great point. I mean, again, I'm reporting on what was posted by WCCF Tech. We're having a conversation. the technical wizards of the community are the dealers, the Colt Eastwoods, the D Batches of the world. The Don is also a technical wizard. Of course, you have to throw in Zalker87, who knows a thing or three. And those are my personal go-to guys when you want to talk about specs. But I can tell you this, Tempest Sun, obviously, I think, like everyone was alluding to, considering that the Sony that we saw in this generation that just walked up to you, didn't say anything, and just punched Microsoft in the face, right? Took their lunch money and just skipped down the lane. That Sony is not here now. And all of it seems as if maybe the summertime when school was out, that, maybe that, Big Bod Phil now went to the gym and now he's the bully because they've been dropping numbers and games and all kinds of information. And Sony, well, they haven't said anything. And of course, when I wrote this topic, it was going to be on RDNA 2, possibly raising the PlayStation 5 to $500, right? That's why maybe Sony was so adamant about not saying anything, because they're like, wow, can we launch at 5 and be less powerful with 9.2 teraflops versus 12? And then we got this information literally 29 minutes before the show went live, where S.I.E. has it on their website as RDNA 1 or RDNA. What are your thoughts on these specs? Does this confirm anything? And are you as, I guess, perplexed as I am when it comes to Sony's silence?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually watching the stream, the very boring stream of the AMD, investors conference. When I saw what they were saying, it didn't really, it was very, what's the word? It could go either way. I mean, I didn't take that as any confirmation that like the PS5 did have it or didn't have it. All I really know is that Microsoft themselves are advertising RDNA 2,
right.
And that doesn't mean anything for so many people. A lot of people are going to be sitting there scratching their head. What the heck is an RDNA? They just don't know and they don't care. But it is actually a big deal. And Microsoft, they're saying it's RDNA 2 for a reason. So the people that actually really give a crap look into it and they find out that it is a big deal. It's a huge, I think per watt, it's 50% more increase in power per watt. So it is going to be actually a huge deal, plus all the features built into RDNA 2. Now, as far as Sony goes, it just says RDNA, and that's coming straight from S.I.E. I don't know. I mean, listen, the only reactive thing that Sony's done recently is they made a LinkedIn post saying fastest console. People saw that, ran with it, and like hours later, Sony themselves took that down and reposted it with different wording. Yeah. That's the only thing that they've been reactionary about. So even if this was a quote unquote typo or somebody messed up and didn't put the 2 there, don't you think they would put the 2 there? I mean, don't you think they would correct that quickly? So it still doesn't mean that it's not going to be RDNA 2. But as far as the community goes, the people on Twitter, podcasts, I mean, I just reenacted that GIF with Captain Picard, man. I had to facepalm because like an hour later, there was Sony-centric podcasts where like, this totally debunks the 9.2 teraflop GitHub leak. And I'm just like, even if it was RDNA 2, I'm like, how? I'm like, how does that debunk it? I'm like, everybody just needs to calm down as far as jumping on this information. And Sony needs to give their fans something. I know we've been through this 100 times, and some people say they don't have to do anything here. They don't have to do anything there. You're driving your fan base that really care about this stuff. You're driving them nuts. And it's just kind of silly to me. I mean, okay, so like if when Microsoft came out with the teraflop count, 12 teraflops, it was leaked on GitHub. I don't know if the GitHub leak originally said RDNA 2.0 or not. I can't remember. But
I think it said 1. I think it was just RDNA.
Okay, so it still said 12 teraflops. And if it's RDNA 1 or 2, it doesn't matter. That's their measurement of power, of the overall power of the system is 12 teraflops. That 9.2 teraflop that's probably going to be. I hate to say it, but that's probably going to be what the PS5 is. I mean, even
If they
IGN
can
of Japan.
somehow overclock it, maybe they get it to 10.0.
Maybe, but if they overclock it, then it better have kind of a similar
Have a good
design.
cooling.
Yes.
Yeah, and it better
Well,
have
the
somewhat of a
cooling
similar
is also
design.
one of the things that we've heard rumored to be causing issues with pricing for the PlayStation 5, because we've heard, again, folks, this is just speculation of what we heard, that there's been some developers said that the dev kit for the PlayStation 5 runs really hot and very loud.
Yeah. So I mean, you add all these things up together. I just, as a person that owns a PlayStation, 4, that means something to me, because when I turn it on, I have to turn my surround sound up louder, just so I can hear my game, for one, because the thing is so freaking loud. And so in comparison, it's way louder than my Xbox One X's, So people don't think that's important, but it's pretty dang important. You don't want your console melting. You don't want your console to be louder than the games you're trying to play through your TV. I mean, heaven forbid you don't have a surround system or a pair of headphones. You're going to hear that console more than you hear the game coming through your TV. You know what I mean? Right. So these are all like important things. And the biggest problem is just Sony, they just aren't opening their mouths about it. And that probably speaks louder to me than anything, is the fact that they haven't adjusted the RDNA thing. I mean, if anything, even if they didn't have RDNA 2, I'd almost assume they'd take that post down somehow, just because they don't want it out there, because people can now look at it and compare it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just think it's kind of silly. And I just think the diehard Sony fans just don't jump on stuff so quickly. I mean, when an Xbox fan gets news about the Xbox, that's because they're drip feeding us information, and we can get excited about this stuff. But Sony is just, they are not saying a thing. And I feel like that should probably change pretty quick, because, man, an hour after that conference, man, there's like a bunch of podcasts going up. It totally debunks this and this and this. And now we're thinking it's 13.3 teraflops. I'm like, what? Like, how the heck did RDNA 1 to 2 make that much of a difference? I just don't know. It's been pretty funny watching this whole thing, but I just think Sony needs to they need to speak.
They need to let the cat out of the bag for their fans, for sure. And as someone that cannot wait to not only pre-order but pay for in full the PlayStation 5 whenever it becomes available at GameStop, because that's where I'm buying it. I'd like to know something. But you know what, Cybernox, I want to get to you next on this. But I have to just do two quick shout outs. JD Gamer drops a $2 super chat. Thank you for your generosity, but more importantly, that you're here hanging out with us on a Monday evening. He says, don't forget about Optimus Code. First of all, Optimus Code was a boss last week. I got to get this dude back on, because his gaming prowess is unmatched. And his knowledge.
I love his story about the music.
Listen, I've heard, because he goes occasionally onto my very good friend Enrique's show, when he does not only the Basement Radio Arcade podcast, but he also goes on when he has these brap rants, and some of the stories that he has privy knowledge to, is really interesting. And of course, our resident overly generous human being, Wilmy Hood, in the house. Thank you for being here, Wilmy. He drops an outstanding $25 subject, says only a few days left until Doom Eternal. Happy gaming, everyone. Yes, indeed. That comes out on the 20th, I believe, which is coming up. It's coming up. I cannot wait. But Cybernox, let me get to you on this. Obviously, until Sony actually comes out, and whether they do this by having an event with the certain situation in the world, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be more of a digital event. So let's just say they're going to be, maybe they'll put something together, maybe something for 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. They'll put it up on on Twitter. They'll put it up on YouTube. We can only speculate, because quite frankly, they haven't said anything. But for you, does the RDNA 1 versus 2 in the Xbox Series X confirmed versus the PS5, we're not sure what the hell it has in it, but we know that it has a strong SSD. We know that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think I've mentioned it before here on the podcast. I was under the boat that Sony, they're in the they're between a rock and a hard place. They still have to advertise their PlayStation 4 games that are coming out, right?
Which are
And
big, by the way,
which are
huge.
phenomenal games that are coming out. You got Final Fantasy 7 remake that's coming out. You got Ghost of Tsushima, and of course, like the behemoth that's The Last of Us Part
Yep.
2. So they have to play that fine line, they have to do that slow dance when it comes to the PS5. But like everybody already mentioned here on the podcast, they haven't said a word, and that's not like them. I know they're in a transition phase, especially at the corporate level, but they were so witty, they were so quick to get back in with a counter towards whatever Microsoft was doing at the time. For them to be this quiet, it's not concerning because they're a magician. They're very good at what they do. They're very good at making great looking games, and obviously games in general. But I think the less that they say, the more you get consumers, or even gamers in general, just you start peeking at the other at your competition a little more and more. You know what I mean? So I think I do agree with you, Boom. I think it's gonna be like a state of play kind of announcement that they're gonna do, especially with everything that's going on all over the world now. But I don't know. I think the only reason they would keep or stay, with the RDNA, one, let's say, is just to try to cut costs, to try to keep that system at a 399. But at that point, we don't know how much they're buying from AMD, like the volume that they're buying at, how long their contract is. It's kind of tough to know exactly what's going on, and since they don't say anything, it leaves everything open for speculation, right? It leaves you thinking, oh, they have the less powerful console, they have this. What intrigues me the most is, let's say that both consoles come out, they're the same price, and now one of them is a little less powerful, exactly the same scenario that happened in 2013. What's going to happen then? How is everybody going to treat the same exact situation when you have one? I mean, at that point, the Xbox was $100 more expensive. But in this case, we're going to have a similar scenario, saying that the Xbox, the Series X, is going to be, the more powerful console for the same price as a little less powerful console. So I hope we hear something soon. They have to start giving their fans a little something, like throw me a bone here. You know what I mean? They've been faithful to the Sony platform and ecosystem for a bit now, and it's only right if they give them, a little bit of information or spec what's going on with the console.
For Sony's credit, they did have two important announcements in the last week. First of all, the Final Fantasy 7 demo dropped, which was, if you haven't played it, shame on you. Play that game. I cannot wait for that to come out on April 13th, and I'm buying both. I'm going to play it through on the PlayStation 4 Pro, and of course, I'm going to buy it for the Xbox and play through again, because God damn it, I love that particular game, and this remake is boss. And the second thing was, not only did they do that, but a week later, they dropped the information on Ghost of Tsushima, right? They put out a story trailer, which was dope. I watched it 3 times. They put out information on the release date, which is great. And of course, there's a collector's edition. And you can bet your bottom dollar that I went out to GameStop and I pre-ordered it, because damn, that mask looks dope. So listen, it is what it is, but I want to move on to the next one. And I think Shady has been chomping at the bit to talk a little Star Wars, because last week, an unannounced Star Wars game appeared to have leaked via the PlayStation Network, and the buzz surrounding this new Star Wars game has fans wondering, what the heck is it? Now I'm going to bring up what it's called, and I'm going to switch some graphics over here, bring up my brand, of course. I'm going to talk about some Star Wars right now. It's apparently called Star Wars Project Maverick. Now, when I think of Maverick, because I'm old, okay, I think of Top Gun. And when I think of Top Gun, I think of planes. And when I think of planes, I think of X-Wing fighters and TIE fighters. So the question is, what the heck is this game? Now, This new Star Wars title that has yet to be officially announced by EA was just revealed, or was data mined on the PlayStation Store listing. And as of this show, the leak only appears to have been listed on PSN and not Xbox Live or PC. Now, that doesn't mean that it's an exclusive. It just means that the bot that obviously takes care of their Twitter account regarding PSN let some more information out the bag that they probably shouldn't. Now, with that said, this title is simply uploaded as Maverick. And according to the Twitter account, it was printed with the artwork that reveals a potential new Star Wars game. The artwork features a lone Imperial Star Destroyer and a small fleet of X-Wing starfighters, implying that the project would likely take place in the original trilogy era. Of course, take all of this with a grain of salt. Now, the setting for the aerial battle appears to be Mustafar, the volcanic planet sanctuary to Darth Vader. Now, obviously, this planet first appeared in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and has been featured in multiple films and animated series. Now, I'm going to bring up a graphic, and you know, there's going to be some people in the chat that are probably weren't even alive when this game came out. Okay, and I'm probably some people on the panel in the early 90s. Yes, back in those days when we didn't even have cars, there were two games that ruled the PC master race.
Yes.
Okay, X-Wing, and of course there was TIE Fighter. And the third entry is the one on the right, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. And these graphics, folks, they were pretty bad. But back in the days, you were like, wow, I'm flying an X-Wing. This is great. Luke, I have to go to you. First of all, I think that look, we have to look at what EA has done with the license, right? Battlefront 1 was good, right? It was a good game. I prefer still to this day the older Battlefront games. 1 and 2 were fantastic. I never got the same feel, even though the graphics and the music and the sound effects, everything was so Star Wars. It just didn't grab me like the original 2 did on the PlayStation 2 and OG Xbox. Mm-hmm. And of course, the debacle, right? Battlefront 2, loot boxes. It was a big mess. And of course, Respawn completely wiped all the garbage away with Jedi Fallen Order, which was, in my opinion, not everybody's opinion, but in my opinion, a masterpiece, right? I loved every minute of it. I got I think I got all the achievements but one. I really went back and I just could not stop playing that game. But there's another title besides these two that I'm wondering if this is what they're going to do. See, as great as X-Wing and TIE Fighter and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter was, there was another Star Wars title that ruled the roost during the N64, and that is Rogue Squadron. What a fantastic game. And considering that this might be a smaller title, Luke, what are your thoughts on them bringing back Rogue Squadron?
Man, it's layered. I would love to see Rogue Squadron return to form because the N64 and the GameCube sequels, I love them. I played them all. And Luke Skywalker is my namesake. That is an actual true fact.
There you go. I love it.
But this is a layered story because it was Jason Schreier who said there are 2 Star Wars games in development.
Correct.
The sequel to Jedi Fallen Order and a smaller, more unusual project. Now, this made me turn my head because he suggested that EA Motive was working on it.
Yes.
And I believe EA Motive worked on the PSVR Battlefront content that was specific to PlayStation, where you were in an X-Wing cockpit,
which was amazing. If you have never played it, my God, what an experience.
And if we're talking about dogfighting, boom, we're talking about X-Wing, we're talking about Rogue Squadron, we're talking about exactly what it was that EA Motive made. So a couple red flags and at the same time excitement bells are ringing for me in that, is this a PSVR style experience involving dogfighting? I hope not too, because as you'll find in XEP this week, I suggested that I don't want any Star Wars game to be platform specific. That's for sure. If this is a dogfighting game. I want everyone to have access to it. I want to be able to play it on my Xbox, my friends to play it on their console of choice. Whether or not it's X-Wing series returning to form, I'd love to see it because I, like many of you, I would imagine, I lost many an hour playing X-Wing Alliance and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. What a great series of games for their time. Rogue Squadron was something special. Whatever this is, I hope that it is a game and not something small and isolated, either in experience or in platform. I hope that it is a Rogue Squadron game or an X-Wing game. The truth is, quite honestly, I, like you, I got every achievement in Jedi Fallen Order. I got every achievement in Battlefront 2. And Battlefront 2, I will say, much better now. If you've not gone back into it, it's always on sale. The Celebration Edition, that content is far better than it once was at launch because it was abysmal at launch. I hope that we see that revamp, that new approach that we're getting from EA lately that says, hey, we want to keep this license and keep making money with Star Wars, even if it's not exclusive. That's what's getting us this good content. Here's hoping that this smaller Star Wars experience is something we can all access to. And between you, me, the chat, and anyone else listening, gosh, I would love for it to be Rogue Squadron. Get me in the cockpit of an X-Wing. I want to fly down those trenches. I want to fly past the Nebulan B frigate. If it's an Imperial Star Destroyer, bring it. I'm taking out those shield generators and then having at the bridge.
I mean, listen, it has that series saw three releases. The last one being on the GameCube.
Mm-hmm.
And each one was better than the last. Even with the N64's very blurry. I mean, obviously, if we look now, like I'll bring up some of the pictures from I think the third one that I was able to find that look. I mean, obviously, it still looks dated compared to what you would get today. But I would love to see a fully fledged next generation Rogue Squadron. Anything else you'd like to add, Luke, before we move on to Shady?
The truth is, when you look at graphics like this, they look good even today because spaceships are spaceships. They look good in a relative sense. And man, how many hours did I lose playing on the N64 version and having a good time with that expanded lore? To do that now it would be exciting. I wonder why Mustafar's in the image, but let me say this. Whatever it is, I hope it's for everybody, and I hope we're all able to play it. I hope that it doesn't go the route that so many Star Wars games that we've found out about have gone, in that they started, things look good, and then they fall away and they don't reach the sticks. We don't get to pick up and play them. So I hope that this comes to fruition and we're able to play it. I don't want to lose another Star Wars game, Boom. I'm telling you what, man, I love Star Wars. I don't want to lose another game.
It's worrisome because it's EA, and it really, I mean, if you saw the story from the president, well, then now there's a new president, but obviously the old president of Disney, when they had their financials meeting, wanted to open up the licenses to game developers who could present their IPs in a proper manner. I'm telling you this. I know that
Marvel game approach. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I apologize. That's the Marvel game approach. That's where
that's exactly great point. Excellent point.
So here's
right now EA is contract. They got to sign a contract for 10 years. I believe it's up in 2023. I think that's when it is. Might be the end of 2022. Might be the end of 2023. I'm not sure. I don't have that contract in front of me. I have to have my secretary bring it up. Maybe later, but for right now, EA holds the cards. And when you talk about the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, I'm okay with it because guess what? Respawn is doing it. We're in good hands. But though they've had so many cancellations, dude. I mean, if you look back to Star Wars 1313, that game looked so effing amazing, and we're never going to get it. The game that Amy Hennig was working on, right? They wanted microtransactions. She wanted to tell a story. They got rid of her. Game canceled. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that if this is something that they're working on, like you said, it comes to fruition, because it would be devastating to think that we were going to get a Rogue Squadron for then the rug to be pulled out from underneath us. But so Shady, our resident Star Wars fan, I have to immediately go to you. What are your thoughts on the potential of Rogue Squadron, which is right in front of us, coming to, I would imagine, consoles all over the place? Because I mean, the only way it comes to VR, I mean, it only comes to PlayStation, 4 or 5 is if it's in VR, and I wouldn't want to play that. I'm going to be honest with you. There's some things I don't mind playing in VR. I'd rather not play Rogue Squadron in VR personally. Rather use my controller sitting on my couch enjoying the sounds and sights of Star Wars. What are your thoughts on this story, dude?
When I first heard about it, with the name being Project Maverick, a lot of times games use monikers similar to that in the back. So the actual game they're working on isn't leaked. So I kind of thought it was something along those lines. But then, of course, it was leaked along with this official artwork that has got the Star Wars, font. And like yourself, as soon as I saw, I'm like, oh, okay, Maverick there, and the rumor of it being maybe a flying game was like very Top Gun kind of Project Goose is what I would have called it. If it in the background is what I would have known this game as, Project Goose for the real Project Maverick. But
that's great, I love it.
When I hear that Motive is working on it, if I'm not mistaken, I think EA Motive is actually kind of like their story developing team. They come in and do a lot of the story and campaign setup and things like that. So that if they were involved in those VR missions as well, in that what do you call it, Battlefront 2, I think it was, that had the VR.
It was the VR mode for.
That's right. I could see them maybe setting up the the beats of those campaign missions, writing the story that was going along with it. But I'm not sure if they actually developed it myself. I don't know. If they did, cool. But it is VR. And when it was described as something a little smaller and different, it's the last way I want to hear a true Rogue Squadron or an X-Wing or a TIE Fighter game be described, honestly, is something small and really different. I'm like, no, that's not. That's a big flight sim Star Wars motif. It is what it is. That's not how you describe Ace Combat or anything like that. So, man, hearing more about that kind of stuff, I do think that it is likely a VR title. And if so, I mean, the topic is damn near dead for me, especially with its PlayStation VR. I have zero interest in supporting that specific VR platform. I don't have any VR right now, but when I do jump in, I'd like it to be like serious top tier. I'm still waiting for like the next gen of VR, the one that comes out after the Vive 2, if you will. But either way, if it was real, let's say, and this is a true multi-platform, full-blown AAA Rogue Squadron or TIE Fighter game, that would be my personal dream come true. I think that is the one Star Wars genre we have been sorely missing. If you're a Lego fan, they got you covered. There's so many Star Wars Lego games, it's ridiculous. That's basically all we got, except for the two Force Unleashed games last generation.
Great, I enjoyed those.
Those were great games, absolutely. They're single player, third person, hack and slash, story driven games. And then this generation, we got two more Battlefronts. I absolutely adored them both. The second one way more than the first, of course, but I loved them. And my favorite modes in both of those Battlefront games is the Starfighter Assault. I thought they were done brilliant. I wish there was expanded modes in there. I wish there was like just straight up deathmatch in the new one instead of them always having an objective every single match I'm playing online. But I think they control absolutely insane. I love playing the whole match, like from the cockpit and just spinning around. I take names in that mode. In the original one, I was constantly being reported for cheating because I was going like 80 kills, no deaths, untouchable, godlike, like Poe Dameron, eat your heart out. You're nothing. The Force was with Shady when it comes to, playing that mode. But I wish it was a thing. Also, when I was a PC guy way back, like when I was in my teens, man, and I got my very first sound blaster. So it was no longer my PC tower just screeching at me when I played games. My very first sound blaster, the first game I ever loaded was TIE Fighter. And that opening cinematic with like Darth Vader talking to the Emperor, and you could just hear that basically at the time movie quality dialogue being spoken, the music, it was life-changing for me. My God, I couldn't believe it. I played the hell out of those games. I just love the idea of playing kind of like a mission to mission everyday rebel pilot or Imperial pilot. You're not out there blowing up Death Stars. You're not necessarily replaying the events of the movies. you're just on a mission where you're escorting a medical frigate, or you found out where some base is and you're going to go strafe, blow it up, or you're going to blow up some Star Destroyer, or you got pulled out of hyperspace. Like, they're just small little scenarios, if you will. And I think that's amazing. It adds almost endless ability for them to just keep adding more and more and more and more. I'd rather that than some big overarching story where we got to go and get another secret weapon and there's a main character that's named and we're watching cutscenes where we're talking to characters. I just want to play in space, blowing up other enemy starfighters with tons of varying missions. And like whatever cinematics they are, it's like the cinematics of the ships prepping up and going into battle and stuff like that, as opposed to, again, dialogue driven, typical, like anything that we see from Jedi Fallen Order. Because I like that. That's what X-Wing and TIE Fighter generally were. I know Rogue Squadron did have a bit more of a story to it, but even that was really kind of, it felt like the day-to-day of a Rebel pilot, and I thought that was absolutely great. And we're just missing it. Other than those modes in the Battlefront games, we don't have it. I think it is an absolute crime, and if I could have another pick, it would be like a pod racer, but obviously, judging by the artwork, this is not a pod racing game. It would be hopefully maybe a space game, and hopefully not allocated to just PlayStation VR. That being said, though, when it comes to exclusives, everyone knows I hate them that hears me talk. But if it's exclusive to VR, that's something that I completely understand, because that is a different way to play games that doesn't always translate to holding the control in your hand. Like, there's no way you could play that new Half-Life Alyx with a controller and have even close to the same type of experience with the gameplay that I'm watching. She's just manipulating so much in the world that you could not do with the sticks. So I think VR, when it gets exclusives, it earned it because it's giving a totally different and unique way to play. Whereas if this was an actual Rogue Squadron game and just happened to be exclusive to PlayStation 4 or 5, that would be not good. If it was exclusive to Xbox, that would be not good for me. I just don't like that. But with VR getting exclusives, I'm fine with it. But again, I don't want it to be with this title.
No, it makes perfect sense. Real quick, I have to catch up on some super chats. I'm going to get to Cybernox. Philly Eagle drops a $5 super chat. Dude, thank you so much for being here. And he says this: are you a fanboy? I don't think he's talking to me. He says, preferring one console over the other doesn't make you a fanboy. That's preference. Being rude, uninformed, and toxic makes you a fanboy. That is very well said. Now, this one just came in, and I have to thank Robert Jones because this is outrageous. He says, first of all, he drops a $150 super chat. That's probably like record breaking. Robert Jones, thank you so much, friend. He says, hey, I hope your friend gets better and hope this helps. Now, what he's referring to is the Thursday Xbox Factor podcast, and I'm doing with Wilmy Hood. I'm teaming up with the Iron Lords podcast, and the three of us are going to have a charity stream for our brother that is battling cancer. Dizzy, who's probably in the chat. We're doing a fundraiser for him and his family, and every dollar that is raised that day in Super Chat will be donated to him and his family. And of course, I'm going to be supplying the link for his PayPal me if you want to directly donate to him. So of course it doesn't go through the red tape of losing 30% that both my wife and I are going to try and pick up at the back end to make sure that he gets every penny of that super chat. But again, I will forward this to that show. Robert Jones, thank you for that very much. It is great. And the special guest, I Dizzy is in the chat. Well, we have Randall Thor, who talked about your particular article on on Xbox 2 podcast last week. And of course, one of the main players for the Xbox Factor podcast in Zemi Games, the special guest. I'm remiss to say who that is just now. I know I said I was going to bring it up on Monday. I just have to confirm with Wilmy Hood that he will be there. Trust me when I tell you, if he's able to make it, it is the biggest guest that I, as a podcaster, will have ever had on his show. As soon as I get the thumbs up from, of course, Wilmy Hood, and I will definitely make the announcement of who that special guest is going to be. But Cybernox, I want to go to you, my brother.
Yes,
I know
sir.
you're a fan of Star Wars. Are you a fan of Rogue Squadron? And do you even know what TIE Fighter and X-Wing were for the PC way back in the early 90s?
Whew, sorry to disappoint here, but I unfortunately do not.
I figured as much.
I am excited though. I saw this. I don't have a VR headset. Like Shady mentioned as well. If this game does come out for VR, I don't see myself just buying a VR set just for this game. But I do like where the Star Wars games are going now, especially ever since Respawn took over. I'm playing it through Jedi Fallen Order right now. Seems amazing, but I wish I can give you more on this topic, Boom, but unfortunately I don't. I didn't play this game,
Rogue Squadron,
all
all the other
ones. So yeah, I'm a little bit out of the loop on this one.
That's perfectly fine. Again, remember, as gamers, sometimes we really bring it back, and this is really bringing it back. Some people won't remember. Tempest Son, you are a PC guy, and you are maybe not as old as I am, but you got some years on those tires. Do you know what the X-Wing and TIE Fighter games were on the PC, and or did you play Rogue Squadron on the N64 and GameCube?
Yeah, all the above. X-Wing versus TIE Fighter was a hardcore simulation game.
Yes, it sure was.
You couldn't even get on there and fight other people unless you did your you got your certificates. You had to
do like the training.
Exactly, you had to train, and the training was no joke. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was for its time, it was an extremely hardcore game. It got a little bit easier and more mainstream with the Rogue Squadron and those games as well. Those were fantastic. They were a bit more like on rails, if you will, but they were awesome. The one on GameCube, what was the name of that one? That was Rogue Squadron as well, right? Well, I forget what the actual title was, but Rogue Leader. Okay, but for the GameCube, those graphics, man, were unbelievable. They looked absolutely insane. I remember at the time seeing it, I was just like,
oh yeah, it also used like Dolby Surround 2, I think. And I was buying a new home theater at the time, so I'm at like the Best Buy, and I'm telling the guy, I need Dolby Surround 2 in my thing, and he looks at me and he's just kind of like, what? That just came out. That's a very expensive feature. What do you want it for? And I'm like, this Star Wars game is coming out. It's using it. I'm gonna need it because apparently it's incredible. And he's kind of like, yeah. That's a hell of an example because it's going to cost you. I don't care. I need it. So I bought it. And yeah, man.
Right. Yeah. Well, so that's the history with it. Now, if it was anything of those two, that would be great. More than likely what it is, I know we've brought up VR. It's very well possible because this didn't leak. This leaked on the
Sony. Yeah, it was a PlayStation store.
Right. So it could be an exclusive. It could be a VR exclusive. The way it leaked and the fact that we haven't heard any rumblings about it, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm guessing it probably is not a extremely cheap, but maybe a lower budget developed VR game, something of that sort. I hope not. Actually, my pipe dream is Maverick. Most people attribute the word Maverick to just like a pilot, maybe. It literally just means like an independent person or like a independent thinking person, I guess, is really all Maverick means. And you can tie that to anything. I mean, the promo picture just shows a Star Destroyer and asteroids, but how cool would it be if you were like a double agent or something like that, or a pilot that could land inside this thing and pick it apart? I would be cool if you could do both. Get in your airship battles, kind of like that game, Mace Griffin's Bounty Hunter. That cool thing about that game on the Xbox is you could be shooting people and stuff like that, but then just walk up into your ship, and it was seamless. You just walk up in your ship, get on the controls, lift up, and then take off, and you could, fly where you want to fly. It was really cool for the time. So if you could do something like that in this game, I think that would be awesome. I mean, it sounds kind of low budget to me, just from what I'm seeing, but I would love for it to be actually something more than that, and just be something that they are really keeping under wraps, and it being more of like a big, I don't know, a bigger game, something that everybody could get behind. But if it is something like just Road Squad or something, that's really cool too. I mean, I would I'd play it. So
You know it. You know what kind of aggravates me about EA is that they have an incredible license. Now, granted, you know, depending on who you are, some people did not like the new trilogy, right? Especially, you know, depending who you ask. I happen to really like Force Awakens. I did not like the second one at the Rian Johnson directed one. I just seen it. I seen it twice, 3 times, and I'm like, man, this is kind of painful. And the third one, you know, it is what it is. Let's just say that. So I mean, Star Wars fans, depending on who you ask, may not have had a lot to look forward to. And again, if this is an exclusive, great for Sony. It's just that what kind of an exclusive is this for VR? Because for me, I support PlayStation VR. In fact, I love it, and it'd be fine. But I would really like, I think that what's missing from the universe is a Rogue Squadron type of Star Wars game where we're getting to fly different ships on different missions and let it just be dogfighting. It doesn't have to be, you know, this mammoth game. You know, if you want to tell a story, that's fine. But if you want to do maybe a 16v16 and just get into your X-Wing and just shoot people down all day like Shady was enjoying, then that's fine. That's what this world needs. Anything else you'd like to add before I move on to a Gaming Forte?
I actually, if anybody hasn't played it, it's very simple. The story is kind of sometimes all over the place, but the campaign of Battlefront 2 was very enjoyable. And one of the most
I enjoyed it. Yeah, sure I did. Yeah.
One of the most enjoyable parts to me was the parts where you were in space and you were piloting the ships. That was fantastic. It could be one of those things where that part of the game is so solid. I mean, they could give the assets, the engine. I mean, you know how EA loves throwing the what's it called? Frostbite engine.
Frostbite engine, yeah.
So they could give it to somebody and say, "Hey, go wild and make a whole game based out of it." I would play that because those parts in that campaign and the multiplayer mode are solid. You might have to do a little bit more to them to just make them a little better, because at the end of the day, that was just like a not a side mission, but it was just part of the game. But I could absolutely see them giving that to another developer and saying, "Hey, go ham with it, make a good game at it." I would play it. I would buy it. That sounds fun to me.
Make a collector's edition that comes with a giant X-Wing, and I'm in. Absolutely. Gaming Forte. Let's get to. Obviously, we're at the 2-hour mark. I had three other topics that we just didn't get to, and it's fine. I'll bring them either on to the Xbox Factor podcast or, of course, Breakfast with Boom. And this has been a great show. Lots of banter within the chat today. But Gaming Forte, let me get your final opinion on this. Obviously, we don't know much about this Star Wars game. We know that it leaked on the PlayStation Store. And obviously, of course, we can only speculate that it could be VR. It could be an exclusive. It could be that it's just the bot that manages that Twitter account messed up and it's coming for all consoles, or because Motive worked on the VR portion that came out for Battlefront 2, that it's probably an extension of maybe an original title for VR, which would be fine for me, but not if you don't have PlayStation VR, and it would be locked behind an exclusive once again. What are your thoughts on this, dude? Gaming Forte, are you there, brother? Oh, he must have stepped away for a second.
I was talking and I was muted.
Oh, okay.
No, Star Wars is life. Honestly, I love Star Wars. The movies have hurt me in more ways.
They've hurt a lot of people.
There are a lot of people. I like the last one just because it fixed a lot of wrongs. But overall, it shouldn't be exclusive to anybody. It should be shared to everyone. That's when you hear people talk about the fandom, Star Wars is the fandom.
Yes.
That's what they're talking about. And to finally get one Star Wars game that lives up to the billing. I mean, there's been Star Wars games over time that have, like, I love Star Wars Republic Commando. I love that on the original Xbox.
That's one of my favorite Xbox games.
I love that game, dude. It was very simple, but it told a story that at that point we knew nothing about, because at that point we didn't go all the way back like we did. But no, first of all, EA just I'm hoping that EA learned a lesson from what Respawn did with Star Wars, to allow them to say, don't meddle in the game, just let them make a game. Don't worry about trying to shoehorn, trying to shoehorn an engine that doesn't fit the game into it and all this other stuff. If you got to spend the extra money to go out and put it on a different engine, do it, because guess what? It's Star Wars, and Star Wars prints money.
Yes, it does.
And that's the one thing that I think these corporations don't realize. If you got an IP that is like world renowned like this, think about like how Spider-Man was. The only thing they had to do with Spider-Man was get the web slinging right.
And they did.
Once they got that was the one thing everybody could say. How's the web swinging going to be? Is it going to be fluid? How's it going to be going through the city? That's all everybody really cared about, because everything else in the game is kind of trivial. But when you fly around the city as Spider-Man, you feel like Spider-Man. When I play a Star Wars game, I want to feel the force powers flowing through my body. I want to feel that through my controller. I want the space opera, which is Star Wars. It's about the opera, it's about the people, it's about the galaxy, it's about everything. And that's what I want from a Star Wars game. And we got that in the last one, and hopefully we get that and continue with the new ones. If EA puts it in the hands of other people, I'm happy with that too, because there's a lot of developers out there that I can just name that would just be amazing at making a third person version of a Star Wars game, or even first person. I am actually still a fan of the Battlefront ones, because I feel as much as they are just mostly looking no substance, they do live up to the Star Wars name when it comes to the feel of them.
They sure do. Everything, the music, the sound, the locales, everything.
Yeah, the first time I played on Hoth, I was like, dude, this is legit. And it's fun. So with that regard, I just think anybody should be able to share in that licensee with them. But the biggest thing is just make sure you do it right. I'm tired of Star Wars being the brunt of jokes when it comes to, hey, we gotta have a Star Wars game out when the movie comes out. We don't have to have it every year like that. Sometimes we could just enjoy the movie for what the movie is, and we can have a game in the off year. I think every time it comes up to this, we always feel like, well, it's gonna be a Star Wars year because it's a Star Wars year, a movie's coming out. And I want them to dig deeper into the past. I want to go back to the old Republic, especially now that they named a lot of characters as canon from the expanded universe and Legends. Yes. So Revan being in there, they're actually talking about him. Most people only know Revan as a Sith, but he was a Jedi when he first started out.
He so sure was.
The story that they're talking about right now. So I'm really interested in seeing, and like I read the book, so I know how it happened in the book term. But
he saw himself become the villain. Is that what you're saying?
I want to see him become the villain, and I don't care if it's on the screen. It would be even better if it's in a game, because I think at this moment, games outshine movies at this point. People identify with the movies to actually go to watch, identify with the games to go watch a movie, and that's the one thing that I want from them. I want to have that feeling when I'm playing a game, playing a Star Wars game, like I had when I went to go see Sonic the movie. When I went to go see that movie, I went as a video game fan.
Of course you did. Who doesn't want a good Sonic movie?
But I went and see, dude, and the thing, man, I'm not gonna say the end because everybody hasn't seen it.
Right.
I just truly wonder what that end character looked like because we never seen it. I wonder what that character looked like if Sonic looked as bad as he looked. But overall, man, I just want a better Star Wars game. I think Respawn did it. They did really great, but they have to. There's stuff that they can still improve on the game to make it better. And if they can find development houses that's willing to do that, and because that's a lot of pressure building a Star Wars game, I think the sky's the limit for the franchise. And now Disney is not tied to the Skywalker saga, so they can go anywhere they want, and that's what I'm most excited about.
Well, they're talking about the High Republic, the Old Republic. You know what I'm saying? So the High Republic, couple of 100 years, the Old Republic, couple 1,000 years. It's going to be interesting. All I can tell you is that we heard rumor. We talked about this a couple of episodes ago, where the next Star Wars Old Republic is not going to be made by BioWare and or EA, which is very interesting. But again, more speculation for them to give that to Obsidian, which just so happens to be an first party for Microsoft. It would be kind of dope to get a new Old Republic as an exclusive, just like they had on the OG Xbox. But let me just say this has been an amazing show. We had nearly 450 people live in the chat, and I cannot thank everybody enough for being here. I hope that you enjoyed your Monday evening with the 2+ hour show that we put on. Sorry we didn't get to all the topics, but again, it's one of those things that sometimes topics are 15 minutes and sometimes topics are an hour and 15 minutes. And as long as you are enjoying it and the way the chat was going back and forth with one another, I think that you were. Of course, I could not do this without having an incredible audience like we have, a very generous audience. I want to thank everybody for the outstanding generosity once again displayed. And of course, I have to thank Robert Jones with the outstanding $150 super chat that I will be adding to the pot for Thursday's charity drive. Thank you for that, dude. It's greatly appreciated. And I think iDizzy is going to thank you and be very happy with that as well. Of course, let's get into the outros. And I couldn't do this show without having an amazing panel. I'm going to start with Luke Lore, also known as the Sipit Gamer. I said it wrong. Sorry about that, dude. First of all, I got to have you back on here. You were elegant. You are very knowledgeable. It was great to work with you. Complete honor to have you on Insipid Ghost. I got to have you back. Please tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your incredible content.
My friend, thank you for having me on. It has been a pleasure and an honor to be on a panel with you. I enjoy your shows each and every week, and it's a pleasure to be here. If anybody in the chat is so willing, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would check your podcast service of choice for the Xbox Expansion Pass.
Nice.
That's an analytical look at the Xbox ecosystem every single week as I try to celebrate the good in the industry. I have interviews with developers and engineers and people who champion the gamerverse. Steven Spawn has been on my show and chatted with me before. A lot of ID at Xbox developers. A couple more coming up in the next month or two. But it's a solo show, which is tough to do sometimes and also really exciting.
Dude.
So each and every week to see people show up in the comments and write me on Twitter over at Insipid Ghost on Twitter, it means the absolute world. And so I would love it if your amazing community would give it a shot. And if it's for you guys, stick around. It's the Xbox Expansion Pass.
Well, listen, thank you so much for once again for being here, Nick. All of your information is in the show notes. And if you want to follow and subscribe, all you have to do is once this video uploads, go into the show notes and hit the link and you are done. Real easy, simple. Dude, we got to get you back on here. Would love to have you on the Xbox Factor podcast, but I know that you teach. So I don't know, maybe we can try and work that out for when maybe school's out. Get you on one of those episodes because that goes live Thursdays at noon. But we will talk privately about that. Of course, Cybernox, I want to get to you, my brother. Thank you so much. You yourself have been very busy, and you also have a YouTube channel that talks about the Xbox Game Pass, which in my opinion is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but also check out your incredible YouTube channel.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Boom. It was good, talking games with everybody here today. Luke, it was a pleasure. First time podcasting with you, good sir. Chat, you guys are incredible as always. Like most of you know, I'm Cybernox on Twitter. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, I'm a little light on content right now because of the little guy, but it's Cybernox on YouTube. Yep, absolutely. And kind of like what Boom alluded to, I have a second channel that's dedicated everything to Xbox Game Pass. I started last year. I pick a game at random, and then we finish that game to completion. My goal is to build a community where we can talk about it, maybe pick games at random, and just explore different genres. So it was a pleasure talking games with you guys today. It was good to have Shady back, and yeah, can't wait for next week.
And speaking of Shady, the guy that has no problem stomping down the Zealot community at large, I want to thank you again for being here. It's great to have you back in your chair, nice and cozy. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media and check out other shows that you're on.
Not a problem, Boom. It was awesome coming back and being on the show each week here. Most weeks, let's put it. Mondays here on Primetime Gaming. Friday mornings, Breakfast with Boom. Love being a part of your content, man. To everyone that came out tonight and will listen in the future, thanks so much for supporting the content. You power the show. Man, I can't know what to say, man. I'm in a damn good mood. Beat that Ori. Gonna beat it again right after the show ends with the other edition. My basically game of the year guaranteed, Doom Eternal, is next week. And I just want to mention today we got news that the completely free to download, free to play Battle Royale for Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It's about to drop tomorrow.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Player, free to play. They got 3 different modes, different types of being able to respawn yourself in like the Gulag 1-on-1. You win that, you come back. This looks insane. This is my favorite Call of Duty this entire gen. I'm hyped for this. The fact that it's free to play means that I don't have to twist any arms to get my buddies in to play with me either. So I just wanted to mention that comes out tomorrow. We'll have some takes probably on Breakfast with Boom.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm going to try and think about maybe 5 or 6 hours into it because I don't normally play the whole free to play thing or even the multiplayer. But this Call of Duty was aces. And
it's good. I play the multiplayer like every day. I absolutely adore it. I even have a Tamagotchi, the little bastard. He hatched into a bloodthirsty bat that needs kills to stay happy, and I'll gladly abide by that. I feed him crazy. He's gonna be overweight. I tell you right now. But yeah, man. So that comes out tomorrow. Everyone, maybe check that out. Won't cost you a dime. Otherwise, I am so shady. You'll find me sitting on my throne on Twitter at the Sesh Empire. That is one word. Hit the follow button. Become an agent. Thanks again, everyone, for coming out. I'll talk to you again soon. Happy gaming.
Well, thanks again for being here. And again, it's really it's honestly great to have you back, dude, because obviously you are a part of this panel. And of course, Tempest Sun, I want to thank you for taking the time to be here. Obviously, we hope that you will still attend the podcast once PSO2 comes out, that you can find time. I'll have to throw you a lifeline and pull you out of that world so you could be on this podcast. But dude, seriously, great to have you on. Great opinion, great information as always. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but also become friends and get assassinated by you on PSN and of course Xbox.
Make me sound like such a nefarious person on Xbox, Boom.
Shake your hand, stab you in the back. Sorry.
You can find me on Twitter at the Tempest Sun, and my gamer tag is Tempest Sun, and I will be giving the Battle Royale a try tomorrow.
Nice.
And it looks like I got a lot of gaming to do before PSO2 comes, because that'll take over everything.
Yeah,
Probably playing it even when the Series X comes out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, it's going to be it's a great time for gaming, of course. And last but not least, our resident community superstar, in my opinion, Gaming Forte. I want to thank you for being here. He thought he was going to be late, but he used his super speed to make sure that he was here. 84 on the scene before the show went live. So I want to thank you. That's some police jargon. No one knows what the hell I'm talking about. Sorry about that, folks. 84 means that you're on the scene. It's an old police thing. I can't help it. Anyway, Gaming Forte, listen, dude, love what you bring to this community. Love what you bring to this show each and every week. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your growing and content-rich YouTube channel. He's paused again. Paused, or he is muted. Gaming Forte, are you there, brother? Oh, there you go. Okay. Very nice. He's got the Pikachu hat on.
Yep. Got to put the chat on because, it is. I got to go with the meme because, I got people out here making pictures of me in Pokemon outfits and stuff.
I saw that.
I had to throw it. So I had to make it my profile picture. Shout out to you, Gregor Von Doom. But that's how you get back at people. You just go along with the flow because it's all about fun in games. So
Yes,
slow-mo,
fun.
slow-mo backslap. This hat's for you. Just letting you know because I love Pikachu. But guys, Gaming Forte, YouTube and Twitter. Just hit me up on any of those things. If you want any Xbox content, Destiny related content, you already know that's where it is on the YouTube channel. And we are going to bring back the inspirational videos because there is a lot of salt going on out here in Twitter. We need to start letting people know that, hey, man, it's just a game and we just need to have fun. Shout out to everybody on here. Shady, happy to have you back on the show, man. Missed you. Luke Lord, nice meeting you. Everybody else, Tempest and Cybernock. You already know how it is. You guys are my brothers, and I love y'all to death. I will see you guys all next week. And check us out on BRAP on Wednesday at 9 p.m. That's always a good time. And Crossfire Fridays at 7 p.m. if Mooch has power.
Yes, yeah, of course. Well, obviously there'll be no snowstorms because it's been real warm here. So
it's 67 degrees today.
Yeah, 70 degrees over here today.
Ridiculous. Yeah. Well, listen, I want to thank everybody for being here once again. The chat was amazing. The panel was amazing. And of course, I want to thank the generosity, which completely blows me away each and every time I do a live stream. The generosity is really, really humbling. Once again, thank you for being here. Have a great night. I want to close it out with what my dad taught me when I was a little kid. Hopefully, it reigns supreme for you personally. 2 things. 1, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. Remember that. And also, one major thing, treat others how you yourself want to be treated. And I can guarantee you're going to have a good day. Live by those rules. And guess what? Rainbows and unicorns for you all day long. Thanks again for being here. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.